Hello everyone, this is part 6 of my ongoing Operation Gladio B series at Newsbud. This special episode will be open to all. To watch the previous and future episodes of my Operation Gladio B series, subscribe to and join our Newsbud community. Operation Gladio B is the continuation of the original NATO Gladio program with a goal of destabilizing Central Asia, the Caucasus, and beyond through the strategy of tension via synthetic terrorism, using radicalized Islam, covert operatives, drug running, and multi-billion-dollar networks such as the Gulen Fetto cult. Why this region? Because this region is within the sphere of two main powers in Eurasia, Russia and China. Thus, it's been a geostrategic prize for thousands of years. Even more importantly, this is a region of vast and largely untapped resources. The oil and gas fields of the Caspian Sea region contain the third largest reserves of any fields on Earth. Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan have direct access to Caspian Sea oil. Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan provide ample natural gas reserves. Minerals. The region contains deposits of uranium as well as industrially valuable minerals such as copper, gold, and zinc. The Trans-Caspian Pipeline, transporting Central Asian reserves across to the Southern Caucasus and funneling the energy through Azerbaijan and Georgia to Turkey, has been a goal of Europe, finding an alternative to Russia's dominance and stranglehold over Gazprom energy. The opium trade. Afghanistan opium trade brings in over $200 billion a year and accounts for 92% of the world's supply. The Central Asia and Caucasus region is key in both transporting and processing this highly valuable commodity. Thus, controlling this region also means controlling this highly lucrative business. Dominating this region has been one of the openly emphasized top objectives of the United States. Just take a look at what has been extensively written and talked about by the alphabets of heavyweight think tanks that serve the United States and NATO's foreign policy plans. Let's read from the analysis of the region from early 1992 by Graham Fuller, a former CIA station chief in Kabul, Afghanistan, one of the main overseers of Gladio B operations in Chechnya, and the handler of Fethullah Gulen's Islamic cult. It is primarily Central Asia's strategic geopolitical location, truly at the continent's center, and the broadly undesirable course of events that could emerge if the region were to drift toward instability that constitute the primary American interest in the region. Thus, given the potential for untoward developments in the region for Western interests, modest hands-on American influence in the region is desirable. In 1997, Brzezinski released his book, The Grand Chessboard, American Primacy and its Geostrategic Imperatives. Here is a direct quote from his book on the Eurasian heartland and its importance for U.S. global primacy. For America, the chief geopolitical prize is Eurasia. For half a millennium, world affairs were dominated by Eurasian powers and people who fought with one another for regional domination and reached out for global power. Now, a non-Eurasian power is preeminent in Eurasia, and America's global primacy is directly dependent on how long and how effectively its preponderance on the Eurasian continent is sustained. Brzezinski continues with the concept and importance of the Eurasian Balkans, which include the Central Asia and Caucasus region. The Eurasian Balkans astride the inevitably emerging transportation network meant to link more directly Eurasia's richest and most industrious western and eastern extremities are also geopolitically significant. Moreover, they are of importance from the standpoint of security and historical ambitions to at least three of their most immediate and more powerful neighbors, namely Russia, Turkey, and Iran, with China also signaling an increasing political interest in the region. But the Eurasian Balkans are infinitely more important as a potential economic prize. An enormous concentration of natural gas and oil reserves is located in the region, in addition to important minerals, including gold. Yes, the new great game driven by fear that Russian and or Chinese dominance over Central Asia and the Caucasus would prevent NATO from achieving its main goal, full-spectrum dominance. The new great game, as in the Balkanization of Eastern Europe, NATO's Kosovo-Bosnia wars. The new great game, as in creating the Chechen, Dagestan, and Georgia conflicts in Russia's own backyard. The new great game, as in US NATO creating bases in Kyrgyzstan, Azerbaijan, and beyond. The new great game, as in the NATO-US invasion of Afghanistan. The new great game, as in operation to slice off Muslim Xinjiang from China. In order to truly understand Operation Gladio B, we must first understand its origin, the original clandestine operation known as Operation Gladio. To prevent confusion, we'll refer to it as Operation Gladio A. Operation Gladio A was a plan to use paramilitary and covert operatives to implement the strategy of tension to counter the Soviets' influence. What is the strategy of tension doctrine? This doctrine involves the creation and implementation of political, religious, and or ethnic conflicts for the purpose of inciting fear in a population and manipulation of public opinion. A very good example of this strategy is Italy's years of lead that shook the nation with waves of terror incidents. These incidents were directly and officially linked to NATO's Gladio operatives posing as a communist Soviet sympathizers who through bombings, kidnappings, and assassinations terrorized Italians. The goal? Manipulating and changing public opinion and turning them fearful of and against certain groups or nations, in this case, the Soviet Union. The existence of NATO's clandestine paramilitary network codenamed Operation Gladio was disclosed in 1990 by Italian Prime Minister Giulio Andreotti in a speech to his nation's Senate. Andreotti told the Italian parliament that at the height of Cold War tensions in the late 1950s and early 60s, the Italian unit had hidden caches of arms at depots throughout the country. The operation has now been scaled down, Andreotti said, but more than 600 people still remain on the payroll. He disclosed the covert operation after a Venetian magistrate, Felice Casson, stumbled on its existence during an investigation into neo-fascist terrorist attacks that took place in 1970s and 1980s. For example, Casson's investigation revealed that the explosives used in a 1972 car bombing came from one of the 139 secret weapons depots kept for the use of CIA NATO Gladio forces. The bomb, which killed 3 policemen near the town of Gorizia in northeast Italy, was placed by neo-fascist activist Vincenzo Vinciguerra, who was sentenced to life imprisonment. Let's look at a couple of major Gladio terror operations in Italy. Italy's December 1969 bombings. On December 12, 1969, a bomb exploded at the National Agrarian Bank, which killed 17 people and wounded 88 others. That afternoon, 3 more bombs exploded in Rome and Milan. U.S. intelligence was informed ahead of time of the bombing, but did not inform the Italian authorities. In 2000, a former Italian Secret Service general stated that the CIA gave its tacit approval to a series of bomb attacks in Italy in the 60s and 70s. The bombing was linked to 2 neo-fascists and to an SID agent. Testifying in a court case trying 4 men accused of involvement in the 1969 bank bombing in Milan, General Maletti, former head of military counterintelligence from 1971 to 1975, said that the CIA, following the directives of its government, wanted to create an Italian nationalism capable of halting what it saw as a slide to the left. And for this purpose, it may have made use of right-wing terrorism, and that I believe this is what happened in other countries as well. The Bologna bombing. On the morning of August 2, 1980, Italy experienced its worst ever terrorist attack at the Bologna train station, which killed 85 people and wounded more than 200 others. In 1988, 4 right-wing terrorists were sentenced to life in prison. 2 other defendants were convicted of slandering the investigation. Francesco Pazienza, a former financier linked to several criminal cases in Italy, and Licio Gelli, the former grandmaster of the so-called P2 Masonic Lodge. This is the very same Licio Gelli who happened to be a CIA intermediary for the head of Italian intelligence for the Gladio network. After Andreotti's disclosures, European officials began coming forward to describe similar operations in most of the other NATO countries. These CIA-backed paramilitary networks included units in Belgium, France, Turkey, Greece, Germany, and the Netherlands. The Italian government released a 300-page official report on Gladio operations in Italy in 2000, documenting connections with the United States. It declared that the U.S. was responsible for inspiring a strategy of tension. In examining why those who committed the bombings in Italy were rarely caught, the report said, those massacres, those bombs, those military actions had been organized or promoted or supported by men inside Italian state institutions and, as has been discovered, by men linked to the structures of United States intelligence. Turkey was the most important NATO arm in Gladio operations targeting Central Asia and the Caucasus. Turkey's Gladio operatives relied on cooperation with the nationalistic and expansionist pan-Turkism movement. Author Daniel Ganser describes the Turkish secret army as more violent than that of any other stay-behind in Western Europe. Here is how he describes the origins of the Turkish stay-behind known as counter-guerrilla. Under the headline, The Origins of Gladio in Turkey, the Paris-based intelligence newsletter reported in 1990 that they had obtained one of the recently declassified original strategy documents engendering the Western European stay-behind or Gladio network. U.S. Army General Staff's top-secret March 28, 1949 overall strategic concepts. In an adjoining document, JSPC 891/6 Section Tab B, a specific reference is made to Turkey, highlighting how the pan-Turkism movement could be exploited strategically by the United States. Turkey, according to the Pentagon document, is an extremely favorable territory for the establishment of both guerrilla units and secret army reserves. Politically, the Turks are strongly nationalistic and anti-communistic, and the presence of the Red Army in Turks will cause national feeling to run high. Intelligence newsletter thereafter correctly related that the Turkish secret army called counter-guerrilla was run by the Special Warfare Department and consisted of 5 branches: training group including interrogation and psychological warfare techniques, a special unit specializing since 1984 in anti-Kurd operations, a special section, special operations in Cyprus, coordination group, also called the Third Bureau, and administrative section. Now, let's take a look at one Turkish operative who has been identified as one of the top Turkish gladiators in the 80s and 90s, Abdullah Çatlı. Abdullah Çatlı is the most famous member of Turkish Gladio's counter-guerrilla operatives. His fascinating history is filled with Hollywood-worthy stories of bold assassinations, terror attacks, drug trafficking, a fantastic escape from prison, and many other international intrigues. Çatlı began his career as a petty street thug in Turkey's ultranationalist movement. He rose through the ranks to become a mafia head and a ruthless enforcer for Turkey's intimidating ultranationalist Grey Wolves organizations, which was directly connected to Turkey's CIA NATO-directed Gladio movement. By 1978, Çatlı had become the second in command of the organization and Turkey's top counter-guerrilla operative, implicated in multiple high-profile assassinations, including the murder of Abdi İpekçi, the country's most well-known newspaper editor. Operating underground and with his growing fame and notoriety, Çatlı became an important international gladiator. Çatlı was the main operative in the 1981 assassination attempt on the Pope. In 1982, he accompanied Italian gladiator Stefano Della Chai to Latin America and Miami. After that, he went to France, where he planned the bombing of the Armenian Genocide Memorial at Alfortville and the failed assassination attempt against Armenian activist Ara Toranian. In 1984, Çatlı was arrested in Paris, France, for heroin trafficking and sentenced to 7 years imprisonment. As we know, Operation Gladio was directly involved in drug trafficking. In 1988, Çatlı was sent to Switzerland, where he was also wanted for drug trafficking. 2 years later, in March 1990, Çatlı escaped from the Swiss high-security prison in a fantastical Hollywood-style prison break that involved the use of a helicopter and paramilitary operatives. Le Monde Diplomatique, in an explosive report on the Turkish deep state, referred vaguely to the mysterious accomplices who helped him to escape, but others have specifically identified the escape helicopter as a NATO vehicle. After his amazing so-called escape, while still an international fugitive on Interpol's most wanted list and wanted by the authorities of many countries for a series of crimes, Çatlı arrived in England and obtained residency almost immediately. Fast forward another year and you have Abdullah Çatlı entering the United States as the world's most wanted terrorist, that is, settling in Chicago, receiving residency from the US government and several diplomatic passports from the Turkish consulate in Chicago, where he based his operations center for CIA's Caucasus, Central Asia, and Xinjiang terror operations. While in the United States, he freely traveled the globe, from Turkey to Beijing, Azerbaijan, and Dubai with complete impunity. In Turkey, he was working with the police for special missions and entered and exited the United Kingdom and the United States unimpeded. In 1995, Chatlı was a key participant in a planned coup attempt against Azerbaijani President Aliyev, the father of the country's current president. The planned assassination failed, but Chatlı somehow, mysteriously, was not caught. While the assassination itself did not result in the death of Aliyev, it did accomplish Gladio's objective. Exactly from that point on, Azerbaijan began to separate itself from Russia and became a staunch US NATO ally. This is when Azerbaijan began projects with Chevron, BP, and other major oil conglomerates, and has since become a NATO partner and prospective NATO member. All this as part of the original Operation Gladio, Gladio A, until everything changed with one accident, one movie-like incident, an international scandal on the evening of November 3rd, 1996, when a complete switch from Operation Gladio A to Gladio B had to be made quickly, when the implementation of Gladio B kicked in immediately, the Susurluk scandal. In our next episode, I'll be covering the Susurluk case, the activation of Operation Gladio B, the Clinton administration, the CIA, and the transportation of the Gülen cult's headquarters from Turkey to the United States. We have just started our annual Newsbud fundraising. The continuation and frequency of this program depends solely on your support, so please do your share and contribute whatever you can. As part of this fundraising campaign, we are offering a one-time only promotion, a 20% discount on our annual subscription price for a limited time. That is for the duration of this fundraising campaign until September 30th. Thank you all. This is Sibel Edmonds reporting for Newsbud.